Hi, Dave Roscoe here. It is Monday, June 23rd, 2025, and I am back from the weekend. And it was a good weekend. It's getting hot here. It was 94 yesterday. It's gonna be 96 today, and it's supposed to get over 100 tomorrow. And just a week ago, we had temperatures in the 60s. Go figure. This is summer in New England, and it's not. Yeah, it is summer now. It's last day of school. My son finished high school last week. My younger one is finishing school today. Today's his last day, and that'll be nice because then I don't have to get up at 5:30 in the morning anymore until September. So I like that. But in the meantime, a lot's been happening with the crypto markets. I don't know if you've been watching, but prices have been scary, and the primary reason is that there's a lot of instability in the world. And now we have the US dropping bombs on Iran, and everybody's holding their breath to see what's going to happen. I got two Crypto Times articles, one talking about the current price pressures and another talking about KYC and 2FA problems. And this is another one of those types of crypto articles that the Crypto Times likes to post that really annoys me. And we'll talk about that at the time. But first, the metrics. The circulating supply is 7.49 billion pi, and there were 56,306 users migrated over the weekend, totaling 16.1 million pi. There is 13.9 million pi in the Pi migration wallet. Migrated unlocked rewards are at 2.27 billion pi, with 22.6 million pi unlocked over the weekend and now free to be traded on the open markets. Looking at the price action, the Pi coin is currently trading at 49 cents, which is up 1.53% from this time yesterday. The market cap is at $3.74 billion, which is up 1.53 billion. Yikes. I don't like to see it this low. The daily trading volume is at $115.81 million, which is up 23.21% from this time yesterday. And if you look here, we had obviously some dips here down into the 40s. And if you listen to Dr. Altcoin, he says it's going to stay there till about August. But I disagree. And so far, we're proving him wrong. And we seem to be trading sideways right at around 50 cents. Now, I was just at the tail end of Bullish Babe's charting session, and a couple of people there, including Bullish Babes, seem to suggest that right now the Pi price action is looking bullish, at least in the next a few hours. And if it does break out of here, we are expecting it to hit around 54 cents, which would be good because that would get us back to where we were last week and recover this lost ground and put this dip behind us. Of course, anything can happen. One bad news article and this goes down again. So this is not trading advice. I'm just letting you know what's the chart is looking like right now. This article by the Crypto Times says, Pi Network's Pi coin to crash, exchange balance increasing rapidly. Pi coin, the native currency of Pi Network, might face some selling pressure soon as more and more coins are being sent into crypto exchanges. When hasn't the Pi coin been experiencing selling pressure? I mean, it amazes me that we have millions of Pi coming out every day and the price still isn't like 10 cents or lower. But the one thing I will say is that it hasn't been flooding onto the exchanges. So yeah, you'll see a dip just because they fear all that Pi's coming on the exchanges, but then it doesn't. And then they get a collective sigh of relief and the prices start coming up. Kind of like Bitcoin, right? The fact that Satoshi Nakamoto has been, MIA for all these years is what has allowed Bitcoin to stay stable. If that wallet were to become active all of a sudden and there were movements of Bitcoin, the Bitcoin market would tank just out of sheer panic. So that's kind of how this all works. But anyway, Over the last 24 hours, a total of 6.5 million Pi coins were moved into exchange wallets. Data from PiScan shows that over 359 million Pi coins are now held by exchanges like OKX, Gate.io, BitGet, and MEXC, with a large 168 million Pi of that on Gate.io and 122 million Pi on BitGet. Gate.io had the most in deposit increase with over 2.1 million Pi deposited in a day. BitGet followed with over 1.4 million Pi deposited. OKX had a roller coaster day. It deposited 2.2 million Pi, but sent 4.1 million Pi. All this results in a net loss of 1.9 million Pi. Now you have to be careful here. It could look like one exchange is having a larger number of deposits of Pi while another sees a drop. And if you look at the wallets for these exchanges, you will see a lot of cross-exchange transfers. And that's kind of interesting because it tells you that these exchanges are kind of playing games with each other to change how the outlook looks for Pi on any given exchange. I mean, this is how they manage their liquidity. And I don't know like the backstory about how that all works, but the blockchain doesn't lie. And you will see these transactions going back and forth between exchanges. I don't know too much to read about this because another thing to keep in mind is that we've had a lot of Pi unlocked. You know, we had roughly like 230 million Pi on exchanges at one point, maybe a month or two ago. So it's hard to say whether the actual number of Pi that's on the exchanges today proportional to the amount of unlocks since it was around 220 has remained constant, or if we are indeed seeing an increase in the deposits to the exchanges with respect to what's being held. So we don't really know. Meanwhile, we could know, but I haven't looked. Meanwhile, the price of Pi coin has stayed mostly flat, according to CoinMarketCap. It dropped slightly by 0.9% today to 53 cents. Well, shows you this article is a little old, and it was. It's like I think this came out on the 20th. The trading volume also fell hard, now down to 43.1 million, a 45% dip over the last 24 hours. So even with all this activity, there hasn't been a major impact on the market price just yet. However, the next few days could show if holders are ready to sell or just moving assets around. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of that. So this price, when you don't see a lot of volume or a lot of activity going on, that means that they're kind of exhausted their interest in that price range. When it first got down to around this price range, we saw volume pick up all of a sudden, 160, 200%. And the price wasn't moving. So that just meant there was a lot of movement happening right around that price range. And then, like I said, that got exhausted and now the volume has dropped, but the price has remained at that level. And we're kind of in that boat again now. The price has dropped down to just about 50 cents and the volume is at 114.53 million. That's not terrible, but it's certainly not the best we've seen. So there is some interest at this price level and the price has been holding steady. Now, at some point they'll get exhausted at this price level and something will change. And my guess, like I said, it's looking like we might break up to about 54 cents at some point today, barring a couple of things. Like, for example, if it breaks below the moving average, we suspect that maybe it'll wick below just to kind of weed out some of the margins, but then push back up. You know, the market's fickle. You never know what it's going to do. And this article here says, Pi Network users struggle with KYC and 2FA ahead of launch. Now, this one annoys me, and there's so many things wrong with this article. So let's go. As Pi Network gears up for its next big mainnet migration on June 28th, users across the globe are facing problems that go far beyond minor glitches. Okay, first problem. Pi 2 Day has absolutely nothing to do with Open Mainnet anything. Open Mainnet is here now. It came out on February 20th. And Migrations happen every day. There is no migration event at all tied to 628. So I don't know what they're talking about here. KYC verifications are failing. Two-factor authentication isn't working as intended, and even after doing everything right, some users are opening their wallets to find, but there's nothing, 0 pi. Okay, we're back to this poor grammar and sentence structure here. So KYCs are failing. KYCs have been failing forever, and they still fail today. There's nothing special or new. There's no new event that's causing this to happen more. It's just been happening. It has nothing to do with anything that's happening now. Two-factor authentication isn't working as intended. Now, this one, they kind of have right. Lately, we've had issues where step 3 in your checklist has come up yellow or orange, and you've had to go in there and re-verify. And then two-factor authentication isn't quite working because you're not getting the verification emails. And even if you are, it's not changing to green. And I suspect that will work itself out, but it is happening. And people, whenever something like this happens without anybody explaining why, it causes problems and it causes fear. So I'll give them this one. For a project that's been in development for 6 years and promises to bring crypto to the masses, the current situation is testing patience and trust. This is situation normal. We don't really know what the heck they've been doing these last 6 years, but it's clear that when they went open mainnet, they weren't ready and they weren't mature. I'll give them that they have a small team. That much I know. The main office for Social Chain Inc., which is the parent company for Pi Network, is run out of a strip mall next to a UPS store. I mean, that's their corporate address. They don't have a lot of space. They don't have a big staff. I would expect the development team was probably focusing most of their time on ironing out the blockchain, smart contracts, and the nodes. And as I pointed out in a previous update, the node behavior is still a little funky, and I don't think we'll be seeing public user nodes anytime soon. Users stuck in KYC limbo. The biggest issue now is with the Know Your Customer. Many users had already cleared KYC months ago, but when they tried to migrate their Pi to mainnet, they saw their status stuck on tentative approval or caught in an endless loop. Even after passing the photo ID and checks, the system isn't syncing. Okay, nothing here is new. I mean, it's the biggest issue right now. It's been the biggest issue all along. But okay, they seem to have drawn a line in the sand between sometime now and what's happening on the 28th. We don't know what's happening on the 28th. And as far as we know, it could be nothing. Although we did hear one little teaser from the Pi core team about AI and why they were at the AI panel at Consensus 2025. So that's going to be interesting. Now, they've made hints before about the role of AI in the Pi network, and it's not just for automating KYC. I'll tell you that much. Now, when it says they try to migrate their Pi to the mainnet, users don't migrate Pi. Pi network migrates Pi. All you have to do is be ready for it, and then it happens when it happens. If you're waiting on second migration, you're going to have to keep waiting because it's not going to happen anytime soon, probably not before the end of the year. So that has nothing to do with this. If you're waiting on first migration, you have two requirements. Get your KYC done, get your 2FA done. If you can do those two things, you will get migrated at some point, and probably in the not too distant future. So, I mean, there's nothing new there. If you're having problems with KYC, join the crowd. Everyone's having problems with KYC. I have problems with KYC. I've been KYC approved for years, and then I got sent to tentative 4 times, and I'm still tentative now. Now, that's not due to a bug in the system. Well, actually, maybe it is, because I really don't think that if you've been approved under whatever system they had at the time, if they make an improvement to the system, they shouldn't be able to retroactively revoke your KYC status without giving you an opportunity to rectify it. And they're not doing that. They make updates to the AI and then decide that, oh, this KYC is now suspect. Let's move it to tentative, and then give you no clue what's wrong. Now that's not right. And, and they need to fix that, but I'm not sure they will. When you've got millions of people, they don't really care. They're just going to keep moving forward, and whatever happens, happens. If people get disenchanted and leave, it's really just noise. In response, the PyCore team quietly rolled out a new synchronized status on mining app button, allowing users to manually sync their KYC status with the app. It's helping some, but for many others, nothing's changed. Support from the team, almost silent. Yeah, nothing new here. And I will say this, that synchronize is not just for KYC. It's technically is, but it has to do with everything to do with your checklist and your balances and all of that. Now, I have heard people say that they when they clicked this synchronize, some people that were tentative were now switched to approved. But I've also heard people have problems. They hit that button and now their app's not working correctly. Or they can't, or like a status on their checklist changes and then they run into problems trying to rectify it. So this one here is a mixed blessing. Now it's kind of good because you can't fix problems you don't know you have. And in this case, they're kind of lifting the rug to see what's underneath and hopefully they'll address it. 2FA is making things worse. Then there's 2FA, introduced earlier this year as an extra security layer. It's turning out to be another pain point. Many users never receive the confirmation email. Others click the link and get an error. In the worst cases, once 2FA is completed, their Pi gets pushed back into the mobile app. Migration undone. Start over. The team has said 2FA is being rolled out in phases, but there's been no proper guide, no troubleshooting, and no timeline. Users are left guessing. Now, yeah, 2FA is kind of strange. And the most common problem I'm hearing is that people aren't getting the emails, which is kind of like the old SMS problem. The SMS wasn't working. It wasn't working for me, and I'm in the US. So it should have worked, but it didn't. I had to always use the manual process. Now, for 2FA, there are two things that you need to keep in mind. If you go to the mindpi.com page under community and go to the safety center, for email notifications, they list several domain names that Pi will send emails from. I highly recommend that you add them to the whitelist on your email client so that they don't get blocked or moved to spam. That's step number one. Step number two, if you have an iPhone, make sure you do not have hide my email enabled. Depending on what year your phone is and what version of your iOS, this is enabled automatically and you don't even know this. What you need to do is go into settings, tap on your profile picture, go to iCloud and scroll down till you see something called hide my email. Tap on that and the navigation gets a little tricky, but what you're looking for is anything that says Pi or Pi Network and delete it. Once you've done that, then try doing some of these operations again and see if that shakes you loose. But if neither of those things work, or if you're on an Android, then I don't know what to tell you. Wallets show zero Pi after migration. Even for those who got through KYC and 2FA without issue, another problem is hitting hard: empty wallets. Some users see their tokens arrive and then disappear within minutes. Others never see the coins at all. My transferable balance went to zero today. Did not transfer to my wallet. This would be all of the Pi that I mined since my initial bulk of Pi was transferred to mainnet. One user posted on Reddit, and it's gone. It's not isolated. Social platforms are filled with similar complaints, often with screenshots, and so far, there's no clear explanation. Now, I will say a couple things here. If your transferable balance goes to zero, then that's because the calculation that determines what is owed to you is now up in the air. And that was triggered by something. Now, that synchronize feature probably kicked something loose. But my guess is that it didn't actually go to zero. What it did is it moved to your unverified balance. and your transferable balance was effectively zeroed out, but you didn't lose your Pi. At some point, just like after they rolled back the migrations, people saw their transferable balances go to zero. At some point, they worked that out and then moved it back once they ran the proper calculations out of the unverified pool and moved it back to transferable. That's what I guess will happen. I don't know when, but if people actually lost all of the Pi they've mined due to no fault of their own, that's going to be a big problem. And I wouldn't be okay with that. Core team stays quiet as tensions rise. The core team has recommended generic fixes, clear cache, reinstall the app, update to version 1.41.0, but none of these address the core issues. In China, where many users reported stuck migrations, the app recently started showing a compliance video during login. For some, it helped unfreeze balances. For others, no luck. Well, the fact that it helped some, where before they were stuck, that's good. The fact that others remain stuck just means that there's more things to work out. But that statement is more positive than negative. I mean, they're talking about something that already exists as a problem and saying, well, this didn't fix everything. Okay, so I guess we should just ignore the progress. Adding to the tension, a video recently surfaced showing Pi co-founders Nicholas Kokolis and Dr. Chengyao Fan being approached at a restaurant by a frustrated user. The moment, now viral, captured the mood of many in the community. Yeah, so this poor couple was out having dinner and somebody comes and asks them about their Pi account. That, first off, that's rude. And second of all, imagine going up to some actor or actress and saying, hey, I hated you in that movie. Or why did you wear that? Or the lighting was terrible. Or really, why did you decide to participate in that movie? I mean, come on. You just don't do that. But apparently that's okay. You know, I don't get it. People are more focused on problems with Pi and the accountability of these two people personally, you know, in which they may not even know the full extent of all the problems. And they can't even go out to dinner without being harassed. And I'm not going to read the rest of this. I mean, what annoys me at this article is that they take all of the existing problems and then pin it to some point in time now, saying that this is a big thing now and leading up to some other big thing that's coming, when there's been no indication that there is anything big coming. And the problems that they're talking about are problems that have existed all along. Now, there's some new wrinkles because of that synchronize and the 2FA is still having problems, but there've been problems with 2FA ever since it rolled out. And there were other issues leading up to the rollout of the new Pi app. Sometimes people who didn't update had problems because whatever they did in the back end needed the new app to work properly. And then upgrading to the new app didn't always fix it because who knows, maybe something got out of sync. But, you know, it's all weird and, you know, things are going to happen and you have to trust that they're going to work it all out, because if they don't, then, you know, you're going to alienate a whole bunch of users. And of course, the people who don't have this problem, you know, don't really care about the people who are. Listening to them whine about their problems, it's just like, oh yeah, here we go again. It's just the same thing. It's nothing's ever changed. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I've been a little long-winded here on these two updates. You know, I'm kind of out of the flick because I took the weekend off and I wanted to give you guys a good update. Pi 2 days coming. Now, we already know that we're going to hear something about AI and the Pi network. Maybe we'll get other teasers about something coming, but I don't expect anything big. Now, depending on what they have to say about AI, it could be big. We already know that they're using AI more as part of the KYC process, but they have hinted in the past about leveraging the Pi network user nodes to do distributed computing for AI. Now, that's an interesting application, but I'm not sure that 400,000 user nodes representing 400,000 CPUs would really be a drop in the bucket compared to a data center with GPUs running far faster. So it'll be interesting to see what they have to say about AI and the Pi network. But until then, we have to just wait and see. So that's all I've got for today. If anything breaks, I'll be sure to hop on here and let you know. But until then, don't panic, stay the course, and remember, the success of the Pi network begins with you. Pi to the moon. Peace.